Looking forward to talking with Aaron Torres here, host of the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast, our man that's on Fox Sports Radio as well. And been a while, AT. We've missed you. You had a birthday. You've been on a couple of trips. Are you rested? Are you ready to go? Are you bringing the good vibes like you said?
Well, first of all, last time I was on the show, Phil Elson was on vacation, so don't just put this all on me, Phil Elson. Ty Richardson was filling in. I was actually away that weekend, too. I don't know why I agreed to do that show. That was a big mistake on my part. But,
Hey, be nice now.
Whatever. But I've gotten away the last few weeks, but I am back now. This is my first weekend home in a few weeks. It's great to be back. And to answer your question, I'm keeping positive vibes. I do think we're going to get some form of football in the fall. And in the fall, I should add, I do think we're going to get some form of basketball in the late fall, early winter. And I'm just keeping positive vibes because I think that's what we need right now. And I will also say I think a lot of the testing being done on campus is actually trending in the right direction.
It certainly seems that way as far as Arkansas is concerned. We got good news from Hunter Yurichek yesterday that fewer than 10 student-athletes have tested positive since they began testing, about a little more than 6 or 7 weeks ago. But there were two things on the guidelines that I saw Sports Illustrated write about yesterday that just makes me nervous about the fall, and they're out of the control of the athletic departments. And it's whether or not hospitals are getting overrun, and whether or not community rates are going up. So that's why I feel pessimistic. You're feeling optimistic, though, and is there anything else that's making you feel optimistic, or is it about how the testing is working on campus?
I think it's about how the test is working on campus, and I'll just be honest, Phil, and this isn't any great, incredible insight from me, but I think everyone in college sports knows what's at stake if we don't have a season, and especially, and I'm not even talking about the MAC and the Sun Belt and all that, which could be in really, really, really big trouble, but I think the people that matter, the Greg Sankeys, the Greg Byrne, AD at Alabama, Scott Strickland, AD at Florida. The ADs and the administrators, they understand what's at stake. And college sports, as we know it, will not go on if there is no football. And I think we've already seen the ramifications. I think when Stanford cuts 11 sports, when UConn cuts 5 sports, when Florida State announces that 25 full-time positions have been eliminated, and we haven't even played a football game yet. We haven't even canceled a football game yet. We haven't even played a game with no fans in the stands. I think everyone's looking around saying, we got to figure out a way to get a product on the field. Now, I think some of the things that I'm seeing reflect to me that we'll get mostly conference-only games at the highest level. I think some things say to me that, maybe we'll try to save some of those regional rivalries, the Florida States, Louisville, Kentucky, things like that. And maybe it's only 8 or 9 games. Maybe we push back the start of the season. Heck, Oklahoma last week advocated to push up the start of the season in case there is an outbreak when teams do, in fact, take the field. So I just think there is too much at stake, and I've been pretty adamant about this, but even the last few weeks, I have been adamant. I truly believe we are going to figure out a way to get football on the field, even if it just means kicking the can down the road from September 1st to September 15th to September 22nd to October 1st or whatever. I do think we're going to get some form of college football.
It feels like the 3 Power 5 leagues left, the have-not-announced conference only, might be lurching towards some sort of a scheduling alliance.
I agree.
It seems like it would make a lot of sense. If you want to be regional, if you're Arkansas here, you've got Oklahoma and OSU to the west. You got all the Texas schools there. Kansas is close. It makes almost too much sense. I don't see why the leagues wouldn't do something like that.
Well, and there's 2 other things, too. One, it preserves a lot of the out-of-conference games as is, and that might frankly include Notre Dame, Arkansas, because we're basically, I think, for this season, considering Notre Dame to be an ACC team. I think that's just the reality of the situation. They already had 6 ACC teams on their schedule. They have 3 games canceled that were Pac-12 or Big Ten teams. And the ACC has basically said, we're going to help you fill that schedule. But maybe it keeps Arkansas and Notre Dame on the schedule. I know it's not regional. But then, it allows for those rivalries, like I said, and it allows for some really big games that people were excited about to stay on the schedule. Most notably, Texas going to LSU in week 2. Also, Tennessee, Oklahoma in week 2. And so, to me, I'm with you, Phil. And I do find it kind of interesting that was kind of something that I felt like got lost in last week's announcement, which is that, we've been hearing all spring, all whatever, that all 5 power conferences are in lockstep. They're all working together. And for the Big Ten to go completely rogue was kind of like, I think even to college people in college athletics, it was surprising. Greg Sankey said it. Joe Castiglione, the AD at Oklahoma, said it. So to me, that was one of the big things that got lost last weekend was like, well, wait a second now. I thought all 5 of these Power Fives were in this together, and it doesn't appear that that's that way.
Speaking to Aaron Torres here on Halftime, Aaron, so I feel like me and you've shared the same sentiment, just kind of see how you spoke about it. I spoke about it a couple of days ago. Where the hell has Mark Emmert been this whole time? I mean, I feel like you need a leader at this point. Now, granted, I know, well, he is the leader. And like you just mentioned, and Mac Brown even echoed kind of the same thing, making more uniform decisions rather than the Big Ten going out on their own, doing their thing, and then the Pac-12 following suit, which is fine. I have no problem doing what they're doing, but it feel like it would be better if everybody made their own uniform decision, and that goes start right to the top at Mark Emmert, who's been relatively silent until yesterday.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was on another radio show a minute ago, and they said, "Oh, I see that you agree with what Mac Brown said." And I said, No. Mac Brown agrees with what AT says, because I said this a week ago. And it's funny because and you guys know because I wasn't on the show last week, but I was getting set to leave for a little mini road trip with my wife and her family, and I didn't have time to really process the Big Ten news as it was happening. I actually, in hindsight, I don't think that it's necessarily the worst news. I think the Big Ten is saying we think this is the best chance that we have to put a product on the field this year, and I think anyone is in favor, unless you're a fan of a MAC school or a school that was going to play the Big Ten out of conference. I think everybody's in favor of just getting any kind of football on the field. But as far as the Mark Emmert stuff, I went on a pretty epic rant right before I left for vacation, and it was in lockstep with what you just said, Matt. It was in lockstep with Mac Brown, what he said. So basically, the three amigos, the smart guys over here are talking some logic, is that, you're paid a lot of money, Mark Emmert, and I understand that the NCAA, under the circumstances, they actually don't have the power to unilaterally make a single decision on how coronavirus is handled. But what my frustration is very simply this. You go back to that Tuesday before the NCAA tournament where, I'm driving out to Vegas for the Pac-12 tournament, and I see the Ivy League basketball tournament is canceled. You fast forward 2 days, and it's on every other conference to make their own determination on how they're handling, the coronavirus, and everybody eventually shuts down their conference tournaments and then the NCAA tournament. But I saw on Thursday history repeating itself, right? The Ivy League makes the decision, no fall sports, and then the Big Ten makes their decision. Eventually the Pac-12 makes their decision. Some of the smaller conferences at the FCS level have made their decisions. But it's like, where is the leadership? You're getting paid $2.7 million a year to, at the very least, be the face of something, right? And it's funny because, I've been pretty critical, I think, of Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, throughout this process. But the thing about Adam Silver that you can't deny, that guy has been out there doing interviews, answering tough questions, at times admitting, I don't have an answer to that tough question in the March, April, May window when we were trying to figure out if the NBA was going to come back. And so for Mark Emmert to sit in Indianapolis in his ivory tower, I don't know what he does all day, every day, but to not even hear from him for weeks and months at a time and leave it up to all these conferences, I just think it's embarrassing. And you guys know me, I'm not Mr., go on Twitter and this guy's got to be fired, but it's like, I don't know what you're doing, but what you're doing certainly isn't enough, and I think college sports as a whole needs new leadership at the top.
I want to get your thoughts, too, because we hadn't spoken in a while, and during that time, Arkansas basketball made a big splash in the coaching search, hired David Patrick as the new associate head coach. I saw where you said that this is probably the best move that Eric Musselman has made during his time here at Arkansas. What led you to think that getting David Patrick was his best hire?
Yeah, I don't know that I said it was his best move. What I said was it's probably the single most impressive move is getting a sitting head coach to leave a sitting head coach position to take a lead assistant's role. And I'll say a couple things. One, I live right near UC Riverside. I've actually been there, and I've said this. I might have said it on your guys' show because I think I might have talked about it at some point on your show. Like UC Riverside, like it's funny, right? We talk about college sports in Division I as if they're all the same. UC Riverside, I'm not kidding. They have facilities that are worse than a lot of high schools, right? Like I went to a public high school in Connecticut, and I would put our facilities on par with UC Riverside, where David Patrick was the head coach. And so I think what he probably looked at it as is that he was in a one-bid lead, and if you don't win that tournament on that last, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, going into the NCAA tournament, you're not getting to an NCAA tournament, and your career might be altered. Now come to Arkansas, sign a couple top recruiting classes, and maybe you get a head coaching job in a little bit of a better situation. And so I get his decision to leave, but I just still think it's a coup. When you lose Chris Crutchfield that late in the process, I believe it was in June that he left, there were people in basketball saying, man, how are they going to recover from this? Who could they possibly get that's as good as Crutch? And David Patrick is that guy, man. He's signed guys everywhere. He's got connections, obviously overseas, specifically in Australia, but also domestically here in the United States. And I just think, you can talk about an individual recruit. Is anybody a program changer? Probably not. An individual moment, I don't know. But the move to get a sitting Division I head coach to leave that position, and a sitting head coach, I might add, that was doing pretty well. That to me was really, really, really impressive.
Hey, T, we'll leave it there. We're out of time. Appreciate you as always. Good to be back with you.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good day.
Okay, and I appreciate those positive vibes as well. You helped me out a little bit, just a little bit.